What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll learn how to make the welt pocket. This pocket is mostly used on your trousers back pocket, your blazers, jackets, coats, your waistcoats, and generally more tailored garments. So today I'll show you how to make 3 different types of welt pockets. That's the single welt pocket, the double welt pocket, and the welt pocket with flap. It's going to be the easiest method and going to be straight to the point. If you've not subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe and turn on all notifications. And without further ado, let's begin. So first, on your bodies, you're going to mark some dimensions. I've cut out some strips here to guide me, and I'm using my hands to gauge and know the measurement I will use for the project. And I'm using 5.5 inch length by 1 inch wide. So it's going to be 5.5 inch long and 1 inch wide, and that's the dimension I'm marking on my bodies. And I'm marking this on the right side of my bodies, so that by the time I turn, the pocket goes into the wrong side. Okay, so you're going to square those points, and you're going to mark another line at the middle, which will be ½ inch from the top and ½ inch from the bottom. So now on another piece of fabric, which will be our pocket bag, we're going to mark the same dimension. While marking on the pocket bag, make sure you leave out about ½ inch or 1 inch on both sides before you start marking, so that you can hold on to that and use it to turn your pocket. So you're going to mark those lines and square them up. Then place your pocket bag on your bodies and pin them in place. Make sure all the lines align. After pinning them in place, you're going to sew on those lines. So now I've sewn around the edges, and I've sewn in rectangle, as you can see. Just sew around those 4 edges. Then you're going to mark a triangle on both ends. This triangle will help you to cut through and make like a notch on those edges. Now you're going to cut through from the middle line. When cutting, make sure you cut the closest you can to the seam, but don't cut on the seam, so that it will not ruin your stitches. So cut those triangles, then turn your fabric in, turn it to the wrong side, relax it nicely, fold out all the edges and press it down nicely. Then you're going to iron that. Before you iron it, you're going to fuse interfacing on your pocket bag for firmness. Then fold it up. As you can see, just fold it nicely and make sure it aligns at the top edge. It shouldn't overlap. It should just be at the exact point where the top edge starts. Then you're going to sew on those triangles on 2 sides. Okay, after folding, you give it a very good press to hold it in place. Now sew on those triangles that you have on both edges to hold your welt in place. Remember to backstitch to hold your stitches in place. Then you're going to cut out your pocket bag. Now place the other part of your pocket bag on top of the first one, and you're going to sew that nicely. Just pin them in place and make sure they align properly. The pocket bag should measure like 6.5 inch wide and at least 15 inch length if you're using a continuous length. But if you're not, you can use 8.5 inch long and 6.5 inch wide for your pocket bag. Then when you place that, you're going to sew around the edges of the pocket bag. Then your single welt pocket is ready. At every point, make sure you iron nicely. This is how you have a good finish. Now let's move to the next one, which will be the double welt pocket. And for this kind of double welt pocket, I've marked also my dimensions, and I've left 2 inches at the top before I started marking to help me fold the top part of my welt. Then on both sides, I left 1 inch on both sides, just to have space to turn my pockets. Then at the bottom as well, I've left some allowance. Then make sure you mark your triangle at this point. The triangle is going to be 0.5 inch on both sides, or 0.25. Then mark same dimension we marked on the first one, which is 5.5 inch long and 1 inch wide. Mark same on your pocket bag and fuse your interfacing on the pocket bag. Make sure you mark same dimension on the pocket bag as well. Then you're going to align it with the right sides facing each other. You pin them in place on your main fabric or your bodice. Then you sew around the edges, just sew on that rectangle you marked around, leaving out the middle line you marked, which is 0.5. That middle line will help you to turn your pocket nicely. Have you subscribed to my channel? If you've watched up till this time, please subscribe to my channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss out on my other videos. Now you're going to cut through the middle line. I use the seam ripper to start, just to create that ease for me to insert my scissors and cut. So you can do same, then cut from end to end. When you get to that triangle, you cut the closest you can to the edge, but make sure you don't cut on your seam. Just be kind to the fabric. The next thing you're going to do is to turn your pocket inside out. Just turn it to the wrong side of your pattern, and you're going to bring out all the edges and iron it nicely. Give it a very good press. So I made my single and double welt pocket on same fabric, and I'm just cutting out the single welt fabric pattern so that we can concentrate on the double welt one that we are doing now. So after ironing that, you're going to also fold. Just watch what I'm doing. Just fold and align on that ½ inch point you marked at the middle. Okay, then you're going to fold the bottom one as well. Just fold the top and the bottom to that point. Use your 0.25 inch allowance to guide you when folding this. Then iron that nicely, and your double welt pocket is coming out nicely already. At every point, make sure your iron is handy. These pressing irons will bring out your seams nicely. So next, you're going to fold your pocket bag. If you're wondering the dimension of the pocket bag, it's going to be 6.5 inch wide and 15 inch long. That's the dimension I used for this pocket bag because it's a run-through one. Then pin that nicely at the top and the bottom. Pin all around the pocket bag. And first, you need to sew on those triangles first. The triangles will help you hold the welt in place before you sew the entire pocket bag. Remember to backstitch to hold your welt in place before you now start sewing around the pocket bag. So sew on the 4 edges of your pocket bag and make sure to secure your stitches nicely. A double welt pocket is ready. Very easy, isn't it? Now let's do the next one, which is the welt pocket with flap. So I've got 2 strips of fabric, and they measure 1 inch length and 6.5 inch long, and I've got another piece of fabric which is 4.5 inch wide and 6.5 inch long. That will be for my flap. Then on my bodies, I've marked 5.5 inch long and ½ inch wide. I'm making this smaller than the previous 2 I did because I don't want this one to look wide. So what you do is to fold your flap and sew on the edges. Just sew the way you want. You can make a triangle on the ends, or you can just sew straight and fold it. It depends on what you want to do really. Just play with the flap to achieve the shape you want. Then you're going to place those 2 strips on the lines you marked on your bodies. Fold the two strips nicely and pin them in place. One thing I did was to fuse interfacing on my two strips to make it firm, but you can actually skip that. You don't need to fuse interfacing on them. So when you place that on the two lines you marked, you're going to sew. Make sure they both align on the middle line. Just the two edges of your two strips should align on the middle line. Then you start sewing. Sew nicely by 0.25. I had to make the seam several times because the interfacing was a bit heavy for the strips. So you can make yours without interfacing. It will be easier for you to sew that way. So next you sew the flap. You can see that I'm making like a triangle at the bottom of this flap. This is optional. Just play with it the way you want. Just make any shape you like. Triangle, square, straight, even sideways. Then when you've sewn nicely, you're going to turn it out and give it a very good press. At every point in time, make sure you press your flaps. Just make sure each stage you press. It gives it a very good finish. Now you're going to cut on your opening. Make sure you cut the closest you can to the seam, but don't cut on the seam. Just cut the triangles to help you turn your strips nicely. Then place your flap at the top part of your opening so that when you sew, it falls to the bottom side. So you can actually sew the flap at the same time you're sewing the strip without having to sew the strips first and place the flap and sew. It depends on how you want to do it. Okay, so when you've sewn that, you're going to tuck in the flaps on the two sides, just as you can see on the screen, and bring them out nicely on the other side. And you're going to give it a very good press. Press down the seams and align it properly. Your welt pocket with flap is almost ready. Next thing you're going to do is to sew on those triangles. Those triangles come in very handy when you're sewing your flaps or your welt at the back. It holds them in place before you now, and it gives it a good finish on those edges. If you don't make those triangles, you will struggle to get the edges right. That's why the triangles are very important. Okay, so now you sew on those triangles that you have on both edges. Then you're going to iron your seam nicely. This is the pocket bag I'm using for this one, and it measures 6.5 inch wide and 15 inch long, because I'm folding it into two to achieve my pocket bag. But if you're making the pocket bag differently like we did on the first one, you will need about 8.5 inch for each side of the pocket bag. So now I'm sewing on my triangles. Then you place your pocket bag at the top. Align it with the extra seam allowance you have on that point and sew from end to end. When you've done that, you're going to fold it and place it to sew at the bottom as well. Sew on that seam allowance you have as well and sew it nicely from start to finish. Then you fold your pocket bag and sew around the edges to finish up. These methods are very easy and it gives you a very good and clean result. I hope this video was interesting and helpful. If you're still watching up till this time, please subscribe to my channel. It's absolutely free to subscribe, and this gives me the ginger to make more videos for you. If I see your comments and your likes, it raises my morale to make more beautiful videos like this one. Please give this video a thumbs up if it was interesting and helpful. Remember to share this video with your friends, share with your mates that sew as well, so that they can learn one or two things from this video. This is how the welt pocket with flap came out, and it's so nice. Kindly subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss out on my other videos. Which of these pockets do you prefer? The single, double, or welt with flap? In my next project, I'm going to do the single welt pocket, and that will be a jacket. I've already done the pattern and it's put up on my channel. Kindly watch that one so that the next video that comes up on the sewing, you're going to follow bit by bit how I made the jacket. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Kindly have a look at my other videos. I have several other videos on the channel. Please watch them and give me thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, share my videos, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye.